In the heart of an ancient land, under the golden rays of a Mediterranean sun, there stood a villa of unmatched grandeur. Its walls were white as bone, and its gates were forged from heavy gold, shielding a life of unimaginable luxury from the dusty world outside. This was the home of a man who knew no want, a man whose every day was a celebration of his own success and status. Inside, the rich man lived in a whirlwind of indulgence. Dressed in the finest purple linens and silks that whispered of his fortune, he feasted daily. His table groaned under the weight of roasted meats, exotic fruits, and the finest wines, while the air was filled with the sound of laughter and the clinking of gold. To him, the world was a banquet prepared solely for his pleasure. But just outside those golden gates, in the shadow of the villa's high walls, lay a different reality. There sat Lazarus, a man whose only possessions were his rags and his quiet dignity. Frail and covered in sores, he spent his days in the dust, hoping only for the crumbs that might fall from the rich man's table. He was a silent witness to a wealth he could never touch. The rich man's servants passed by Lazarus many times a day, their arms full of delicacies, yet they never spared him a glance. While the humans ignored his suffering, the stray dogs of the city showed him a strange mercy, coming to lick his sores as he lay in the heat. It was a life of profound loneliness, separated from the feast by a gate of gold and a heart of stone. Time, however, is the great equalizer. Eventually, the sun set on both lives. The rich man was buried with a funeral of great pomp and lamentation, a final display of the wealth he could no longer keep. Lazarus, too, passed away, leaving behind his rags and his pain in the quiet shade. In the eyes of the world, one was a tragedy and the other an afterthought, but eternity saw it differently. Suddenly, the dust and darkness were gone. Lazarus opened his eyes to a realm of brilliant, golden light. He was no longer the broken man at the gate, but a guest of honor. He found himself in the serene embrace of Abraham, the father of faith, surrounded by peace that surpassed all understanding. Here, every tear was wiped away, and his long suffering was replaced by eternal comfort. But for the rich man, the awakening was far different. He found himself in a dark, fiery abyss, where the heat was relentless and the shadows offered no rest. Looking up through the jagged rocks and glowing embers, he saw the distant light of paradise. He saw the very man he had ignored at his gate, now exalted and at peace, while he was consumed by the agony of his own choices. Parched and desperate, the rich man cried out, his voice echoing in the void. He begged for Father Abraham to have mercy, asking for Lazarus to be sent with just a drop of water to cool his tongue. The man who once feasted on the finest wines now pleaded for a single drop of water, realizing too late that the comfort he once took for granted was gone forever. Abraham's voice resonated from the light, filled with a sorrowful wisdom. He reminded the rich man of his life of luxury and Lazarus's life of misery. He explained that a great chasm had been fixed between them, a divide that no one could cross. The choices made in the temporary world had created a permanent reality, and the mercy he had failed to show was now a mercy he could not receive. In his desperation, a flicker of concern finally emerged from the rich man's heart, not for himself, but for his 5 brothers still living in the villa. He begged Abraham to send Lazarus back to earth to warn them, so they would not end up in this place of torment. His selfishness was finally breaking, replaced by a frantic desire to save his kin from the same fate. But Abraham stood tall, his voice steady. He told the rich man that his brothers already had the prophets and the scriptures to guide them. If they would not listen to the truth already given, they would not be convinced even if someone rose from the dead. The path to compassion and faith was already laid out. It was up to the living to choose to follow it before the gate closed. The story ends with a haunting contrast. On earth, the villa's golden gate stands empty, its former master forgotten in the pursuit of more wealth. In eternity, the division remains. The parable serves as a timeless warning. Our lives are defined not by what we gather for ourselves, but by the love and mercy we extend to those sitting at our gates. As the stars come out over ancient Jerusalem, the weight of eternity hangs in the air. The story of Lazarus and the rich man reminds us that every moment is an opportunity to choose compassion over indifference. For in the end, it is not the gold we leave behind, but the kindness we carry into the light that truly matters.